there everyone, and thanks for joining me for studying whales and dolphins in Scotland with the Hebridean Whale and Dolphin Trust. I'm Pippa and I'm going to be talking to you today. Before we get started, you're going to need a pen and some paper to write on. So if you haven't got these, please pause me now. The other thing is that there are going to be a couple of ongoing tasks as I'm talking to you today. The first is I would like you to write down anything I talk about as a solution for how we can be more environmentally friendly. As a marine conservation charity, we have made quite a few changes and I'll be talking more about these, which you can then discuss at the end. The second is, as a marine scientist working out on a research vessel, I need to have really great observational skills. I have to be able to pay attention for long periods of time and be able to accurately record information. To test these skills in you today, I'm giving you a challenge. I want you to keep a tally of every single time I say the word research. Compare these with your friends at the end and see if you guys all get the same answer. Okay, let's get started then. So, we're here at a climate conference talking about climate change. Why are whales important? Why are we talking about climate change and whales? What is the link? Does anybody know this? Feel free to pause the recording and have a quick discussion. So, to explain it in more detail then, we're going to have a look at this illustration. So, here we've got a sperm whale. Sperm whales are incredible whales. They dive right to depths of the ocean where they hunt prey like giant squid. Sperm whales, like all whales and dolphins, are marine mammals, so they have to come up to the surface to breathe. And as they are in the surface waters, they poo. Here we can see whale poo. It's bright kind of pink kind of colour, creates massive clouds in the ocean and is absolutely full of nutrients. This is essential for life. Phytoplankton here, these are microscopic animals, actually need a few things to thrive. They need sunlight, carbon dioxide, which they get from the atmosphere, and nutrients, which they're getting from the whale poo. Under these conditions, we get plankton blooms, where we get huge explosions of plankton, loads of phytoplankton. This is great for the climate because it's taking carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. And it's actually thought that phytoplankton takes 1/3 of the carbon dioxide generated by human activities. In addition, they produce oxygen. And this oxygen actually creates enough oxygen for half the planet's supply. So to put that into perspective, that is every second breath you're taking is thanks to our oceans, phytoplankton, and whale poo. But the story doesn't end here. Phytoplankton are at the bottom of the food chain or food web. They are eaten by animal plankton, zooplankton, which is then eaten in turn by fish and whales. Some of the whales also eat fish as well, and they eat things right all the way up the food chain. So actually, whales and dolphins play a really important role in also helping to regulate the whole ecosystem and the whole food web. But this doesn't just happen in one place. We have whales and dolphins across the world. And what's more, they travel. So we have huge migrations where these whales travel from north to south and south to north, helping to move and mix these nutrients around the world. All living things capture carbon during their lifetime. The larger the living thing is, and the older the living thing is, the more carbon they capture. As a result, whales are absolutely fantastic for capturing carbon when they're alive because they're really long-lived and they grow massive. In fact, it's thought that one whale can capture 33 tons of carbon in their lifetime. And to put that into perspective, if we compare something, say, a tree, we would actually need 23 trees to capture the same amount of carbon. And all of those trees would need to live till 70 years old. So one could argue that actually whales are even more important than things like our rainforests for helping combat climate change, and also produce oxygen we need to breathe. Finally then, when the whales reach the end of their life, they fall to the bottom, they sink, and these whale falls help lock the carbon away so that it's out of the atmosphere. As well, they then produce nutrients which other animals living on the seabed can eat. So it kind of really creates this cycle of energy and nutrients, which is essential for life on Earth and life in our oceans. So what do you think? Learned something new? What I want you to do now is pause the video and talk to the person next to you about what you found most surprising about what you just learned. Okay, so today you're going to be coming on a virtual trip to Scotland with me. First up, you need to visit the west coast of Scotland, and once you arrive, you're actually going to be going out to a Hebridean island. The Hebrides is the name for all of the islands that stretch up the west coast of Scotland, and we're going to be going to one island in particular, the Isle of Mull. Here on Mull, we have a town called Tobermory. It's a beautiful, colourful harbour town where we have our base, and this is where we keep our research vessel, Silurian. So, welcome aboard. This is Silurian. She is a sailing boat or a yacht, and she's specially designed to carry out whale research. On board, we have some dedicated crew who help make sure that everything runs nice and smoothly. My role is the science officer for teen research trips. These happen a couple of times a year, and we take 16 and 17-year-olds out to sea to carry out the research. I provide all of the training and make sure that everybody's collecting the data accurately and help take the photographs as well. As well as me on board, there's the skipper, very important. Emma is our skipper, and she has been carrying out kind of these trips all through the year. So she goes out most of the year with volunteers. The skipper's role is to travel from A to B. So she gets us from A to B. She does all the navigation. She helps to plan the trips. She's involved in making sure the boat is safe and ready and kind of seaworthy, and make sure that everybody else on board is safe as well, so the safety of everyone on board. To help her out, she has a first mate. So Charlie is one of our first mates. He helps with the sailing, so we'll help take the helm and steer and help with the sails during the day. He also supports with the domestic side of things, so we'll help with the cooking and making sure that volunteers are all kind of happy and looked after. And then if we're lucky, we have an assistant who's a volunteer. This trip we've got Craig, and Craig is studying marine biology at university and has come and volunteered his time during the summer to get some experience and to help us out. However, it's not just the crew that we need volunteers. Every single trip we take 6 paying volunteers out to sea for 7 to 12 days at a time. These people come from all over the world. They come from all backgrounds, all ages, all different experience levels. You don't have to have gone sailing before. You don't need to have ever seen a whale before. We teach you everything you need to know, and it's a great adventure. So pause me now and talk to the person next to you about what you would be most looking forward to joining this trip as the 6th volunteer. I'm really excited to hear what you think. I would love to know more about what you think is the most exciting and thing to look forward to about joining us on board. So now you've met everybody, it's time to really explore the boat and have a good look around. If we go downstairs below decks, as soon as you enter the boat, you'll see the saloon. This is basically our kind of living area, our dining area. It's quite a social space, and as you can see, we've got a table that we can just squeeze 10 people around. So here we will eat our dinner, and actually I think they're eating cake just there with cups of tea. Cake is very important when you're out at sea. All of the food is made in the galley or the kitchen. Everything that we need for our trips we take with us. So we buy a lot of our food in bulk, which helps reduce plastic packaging. And we also try to buy our food locally where possible to reduce kind of air miles and support local communities as well. Here is our kind of bedrooms or cabins. Each volunteer shares with another volunteer, so it's 2 per cabin. They're pretty comfortable. We don't ever really get many complaints. They've actually got memory foam mattresses, and usually by the end of the evening, you're so exhausted that you just kind of fall asleep and have a good night's sleep before the next day. So the other thing is that it's a great way to get to know people, and by the end of the week, everyone's a really great team. Here's the heads, or the toilet on the boat. It's similar to that at home. However, to flush the toilet on board, you actually have to pump the handle 25 times. All of the waste and the water that we produce goes overboard. Down the plug and into the ocean. So we do have to be really mindful about the chemicals that we're using, and we make sure that anything we do use is eco-friendly. The shower is similar to that at home. However, we do limit the use of water. All the water we need, we carry with us on board. And so in a 7-day trip, then you'll probably be having maximum 2 showers in the whole week. So I mentioned that she is a specialist research boat. Let's have a look at some of the equipment. Here we've got our hydrophone. This is an underwater microphone. It's a very long cable that gets towed behind the boat. Here you can see one of our scientists putting it overboard. So that's towed along behind, and it picks up all the sounds of the whales, dolphins and porpoises, but also any sounds of boats, ferries, fish farms, so industry as well. We also have cameras on board. So here we've got 2 scientists using cameras, and these tend to be taken by our scientists, but we do encourage volunteers to take photos too. You can see though, we've got huge lenses on these cameras, and that allows us to get very good close-up images of the animals so that we can actually see if we recognize them and take photos of marks and scars. Here's Jenny. She's down in the science station, and she's listening, as you can see with those headphones, to any sounds coming through the hydrophone. The 2 computers are always running. One is for the sounds and the other one is to report the sightings. So people will be frantically kind of typing away down there to record any information that comes in. And then finally, all the volunteers are provided with binoculars to help them spotting and make sure everybody's using the same level of equipment. So, how are you with your species ID? Can you tell a whale from a porpoise? Well, in the UK, there are actually 30 different species of whale and dolphin recorded here. Whales, dolphins and porpoises are collectively called cetaceans, and 30 cetacean species is pretty epic considering there's only about 90 in the whole world, which means that the UK and Scotland are internationally important areas for these animals. Luckily though, you don't need to learn 30 different species. We have 8 that are regularly seen, and actually today we're going to focus on 5 of those. So, what I want you to do is pause now and label these 5 key species using the names I've provided. Jot down any kind of important features to help you identify them, because you will need these later on when we're on survey. And also have a think, is there any other species of cetacean that isn't listed here that you think has been recorded in the UK? How did you get on, folks? Here is the answers. Have a good look. Make sure you got the right answers and you've got them written down. The harbour porpoise was the smallest one, so only kind of around about 1.5 metres, very small, shy with a triangular dorsal fin on the back, usually surface without making any splash, and then they disappear and they're gone. We've also got common dolphins and bottlenose dolphins. So the dolphins all have that curve or wave-shaped fin in the centre of the back. You can see that kind of pointy nose at the front, and they tend to make a lot more splashing and will even approach boats. Surprisingly, we do have killer whales in Scottish waters. It's an absolute privilege to see them. They can be seen around the whole of the UK, but you do have to be lucky spotting them. And then we've got our whale, which you can tell is a whale because its fin is further back, closer to its tail. And the main whale that we have around the UK is the minke whale, which you can remember because minke whales are really stinky. We've got stinky minkies due to that huge mouth of theirs. They eat a lot of fish, and so they've got really stinky breath. Okay, so if you're to come out with us, you're going to be coming out for 7 days, and during that time we're going to put you to work. You're going to be working and surveying from 9 to 5 every day, and so to make sure everybody stays alert, enjoys themselves, but also carries out kind of the best quality science, we work on a rota. It's all about teamwork. There are a few different positions. The first is that we always have 2 people watching from the mast, one on either side, who look out forward, and they're the eyes of the boat. They're responsible for spotting. Once you've watched on one side for half an hour, you swap to the other side for the other half an hour. It's then your turn to have a break, and you have 2 half-an-hour breaks. In this hour, you can do whatever you want. You can read a book, you can help with the sailing. If it's nice weather, you might want to climb up the crow's nest here all the way up to the top if you're feeling brave, or even bake a cake. After your time off, it's then on to relay, and the relay sits here at the entrance to downstairs, where they actually shout back any information or sightings from the mast down the stairs to the person on the computer. And then finally, that person down on the computer is playing a vital role in making sure they record all of the data, typing it away, and also listening to the sounds with the hydrophone. Right then, that's you guys fully trained. Let's head out to sea. Here we've got Silurian leaving Tobermory Bay. You can see that the sails are already up. We put the sails up as much as we can because that reduces our need for use of the engine and fuel. We also encourage our volunteers to use public transport wherever they can to get to Mull to try and reduce the use of cars. As soon as it gets deep enough, we will put the hydrophone out, and that will be in the water for the whole day, recording all of those sounds of the whales, dolphins, and other kind of anthropogenic man-made noise. And then, like I said, we've got 2 volunteers standing at the mast in one of the most exciting parts of the day, where you're out there watching out and you are the eyes of the boat, responsible for spotting. You can see they're all tied on, they're holding on, so it's nice and safe, full life jackets and oilskins to keep them warm and dry too. So, once you've had a go at that, it will then be on to relay. You can see here he's ready to be able to shout down any information downstairs to the person on the computer. Whilst there isn't any sightings, he's also responsible for recording any seabirds. Seabirds are really great indicators of healthy seas, similar to what we talked about with the whales and the plankton earlier and the fish. By studying them as well, we can learn more about how healthy our oceans are. In addition, he's also recording things like the environment. What is the weather like? What's the sea conditions? Is it rough? Is it calm? How far can we see? Is it the visibility good or poor? And also, at the same time, we are actually recording the sea temperature too. Good spot, guys. Fantastic. Wow. What a beautiful sighting. It's really calm there as well. You can see really lovely conditions. Okay, so when we have a sighting, there's some key scientific information that we need to record. The first is we're going to shout sighting, and we're going to shout it really loudly so everybody on board knows we've seen an animal. We then need to record the angle, distance, number of animals and species so that that can all get entered into the computer. For the angle, we're using the kind of bearings or degrees from a compass. So here we've got 30 degrees, as remember 360 degrees in a circle. This means everybody knows exactly where to look from the boat. Here we've got 3 animals and they're about 75 metres away. We're trying to be as most accurate as possible. We also want to record that there's a young one there, so we record that as a calf. And also the behaviour, normal swimming. As we're down on the science station recording our information, let's have a quick look at the hydrophone screen. So here, this is showing all the sound that's come in through the hydrophone. And we can actually detect porpoises this way, so they actually make clicks, so we would see that on the screen. But here, all that black kind of dots and lines, that's actually showing noise from something like a boat going past. So as well as hearing it, we can actually physically see it. Now, we're actually looking into sound as a form of pollution, because if something gets too loud and then interferes with an animal's kind of natural requirements of communication, finding food, navigating, then actually it is becoming a problem. So noise pollution is an unseen threat, unfortunately, and by recording all these sounds, we can track and monitor the sound levels across Scotland over time. So we're going to head back up to the bow there, standing at the mast. Fantastic day, so it's great spotting conditions. But yeah, excellent sighting. Wow, look at these guys. So energetic, lots of splashing and surface splashing. Notice the colour, the shape. Wow. Can you count them? Counting animals at sea, particularly dolphins, is really tricky because they're all moving so quickly. So yeah, excellent. So here, again, try and write down that angle, distance, number of animals and species. So you want to be writing down the angle that they were first seen from the boat. Distance, they were going to be really close there because they're bow riding, so they're swimming along with us. Number of animals, we take a couple of measurements. Maximum, kind of min and max. So minimum is the number of animals that came up at once. So here you can see we've got probably about 15 animals there, and then maximum would be how many more we think were, like an educated kind of estimation of how many were below the surface. So that group could probably easily have been up to 30 animals. Any ideas on the species? Colourful dolphins. Yep, common dolphins. Well done, anyone that got that correct. Excellent job. And we can learn so much from sightings like these. We've been doing this now since 2003. We go out almost every day from April till October. And actually, if you look at the data, it really does show some interesting trends and patterns. In fact, common dolphins and the number of sightings of them has increased 20 times in the last 15 or so years. When we first started in 2003, there were hardly any common dolphins seen. Now they're the most commonly seen dolphin from our vessels, and we see them almost, sometimes it can be almost every day. If we have a look at the map as well, they have changed their distribution or where they're found. Common dolphins are thought to be warm water species, so they were only really seen in the southern area where it's a bit warmer. However, over this time, they've actually moved further north into colder waters and are now seen right in the northern tips of Scotland. Why is this? Well, we don't know for certain, but it is likely that it's linked to climate change. In the same time period, the waters around Scotland have increased in temperature by 0.5 degree. That might not sound like much, but if you remember back to those plankton and how everything is interlinked, everything then has a knock-on impact. So it is really important to realise that climate change is not just impacting animals at the poles and in other countries like polar bears, but it's also impacting species in our own waters. And when the common dolphins bow ride, it is absolutely incredible to hear. Here's Becky, and she is listening. You can see she's hear the common dolphins through the hydrophone, whistling and clicking away. So they're using that sound to communicate and to kind of work out where the boat is the whole time. And like I said, lunch out on the go. We don't stop for lunch. We just have to keep going, and you eat whilst you're at the mast and try not to get your soup all down your front. it looks like it's time for you to be on your break now. So here's your hour off. And during this time, if it's really calm, you can even climb the crow's nest. So it's absolutely fantastic view up here. You can only really get up if it's very calm, but it's a great place to spot from. Wow, yeah, you got it. Fantastic. Sighting, excellent. And look at the size of the animal in comparison to the people on board. Okay, this is a big animal. Yeah, so this was it. The animal was first seen here and then swam under the boat. And then those people, you know, all the crew and volunteers got to see it from the other side as well. So recording from the first angle it was seen at, distance, number of animals, species. We've only got one here. This is quite typical. And what do you think of the species? Yeah, great. Minke whale. So it's a whale because its fin is closer to its tail, and the most commonly found whale around the UK is the minke whale. It's not just any minke whale though. If we take those photographs and we look at them closely, you can see that this animal's fin is not a typical shape. In fact, it's actually got this quite straight kind of back edge rather than the wave-shaped curve, and there's actually even a knobble on the top. We recognise this whale. It's called Knobble. Knobble is kind of a local celebrity. We all get really excited when Knobble is seen. This whale has actually been visiting Scotland and the waters on the west coast every single year for the last 15 years. That's absolutely incredible science, an amazing record to have. And it just shows how important our area is for the whales to feed, that these animals are coming back year, like time and time again. And that's the kind of data and research that helps us to be able to protect them. Unfortunately, to get a lot of protection for these animals, it has to go through government and laws. That's just the way it is. So we do a lot of policy work, and this takes time. In fact, 10 years to get to what I'm about to say. But thankfully, we now have a marine protected area for minke whales on the west coast of Scotland. And this is the first marine protected area for whales and minkies in the whole of the UK. So it's something definitely to celebrate. You can see here in red, that's the area of water that is now kind of designated as protected. However, there's still a lot more work to do because actually how the animals are protected within this zone is still to be decided. So that will require a lot more consultation and work with communities and government to actually finalise. So we're coming to the end of the trip. We've anchored up our boat and it's now time to make the dinner. The volunteers make the meal in the evening, so have a think, what would you cook if you were cooking for 10 people on board? We do try to eat quite a lot of veggie meals, especially for lunches and evening as well, because although we're eating local meat, we do want to try and reduce the kind of demands on the environment, and eating veggie and some vegetarian meals and supplementing, kind of changing out, substituting meat is a great way to do that. So whilst dinner is cooking, we're going to head ashore. This is us in the tender going out to one of the beaches. This is one of the fantastic things about sailing, is you get to explore places that really very few people visit, and it's just a whole different world getting there from the boat. You can see it doesn't even look like Scotland. You think that was somewhere abroad, but actually you do know that when you're there, because the temperatures in Scotland is a little different, and also if you go further inland then you'll find the midges. So part of Scotland, unfortunately. Whilst we're ashore, if we do see litter, we will try to pick it up, even if it's just a couple of items per person. Unfortunately, we do encounter animals entangled or with plastics, and so really trying to get this out of the environment as much as we can, every little does help. In the evenings, we have a great time on board. We play games, we socialise, we write a blog as well. So there's lots to do. We also do presentations to learn about the species and the research, and the skipper will tend to go through the chart with us and show us where we've visited and kind of point out our sightings. So here we've left from the Isle of Mull. We saw porpoises in shallower water, and then we headed out and saw common dolphins and minke in an area that's more open and deeper water, and the minke was actually quite close to these islands here where the tide and the water's rushing around and causing a great place for feeding. You can imagine that if we do this every single day from April to October every year for over 17 years now, actually we have a huge amount of data. In fact, we've travelled over 100,000 kilometres, which is the same as if you stretched it all out going around the world 2.5 times. As well as this, we have over 30,000 marine animal records now, and that's all possible thanks to about 700 volunteers that have given up their time to come on holiday and take part in this scientific recording. So really an incredible achievement. The last thing I'd like you to do today is, can you please pause me now? And I want you to discuss the things that I mentioned about how we have made changes to be more environmentally friendly. Think about if there's one of these things that you could do. If we all make one change, then we can have an impact. And I would suggest starting small and doing one thing and then building up from there rather than trying to do it all and finding it's too much. Also, what about something that your school could do? Can you write down a suggestion that you think as a school you could action and implement which would help the planet? So, hopefully from what I've talked about today, you've realised that actually everybody can make a difference. There are loads of different people recording wildlife, and I would really encourage you to volunteer and get involved with things happening locally to you, but also look at it as an opportunity to go on holiday as well. This doesn't need to be whales and dolphins. There are people studying all kinds of wildlife, from butterflies to bees to newts and dormice. Everything is interconnected, as we talked about at the beginning. So learning more about these animals and helping to protect them is really, really vital. We can also make changes to our lifestyles to be more environmentally friendly, and hopefully I've given you a few ideas of things that you might be able to do to make a difference. And finally, like I said, unfortunately, for a lot of things to change, we do need laws, which means lobbying and talking to politicians and writing letters and really getting involved. So if there's something that you're passionate about, please do stand up for wildlife and have a voice and write a letter or get involved and have your say to try and give those wildlife a voice. Thank you all so much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this session. I would love to have any feedback or anything that you've learned or things that you would like to actually take action on. Please do get in touch with me. You can find my email address on the website at hwdt.org. Thanks again and have a great day. Bye.